Okay, imagine this. You've got the tech world's, well, probably most talked about partnership, Microsoft and OpenAI, and suddenly it looks like it's kind of coming apart at the seams.
Yeah, not quietly either.
Not at all, not with a whimper.
Right.
But with these two huge, almost contradictory multi-billion-dollar deals,
It's definitely a major shakeup.
we're calling it the biggest strategic reshuffle in AI yet. So
Right.
welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to try and unravel this great realignment. It's a shift that really changes the game, changes who owns what in the future of AI.
Exactly. And we'll dig into why OpenAI just committed this, frankly, staggering amount of money to Oracle.
While Microsoft, its main backer, turns around and decides to embed Anthropic's AI deep into its core Office suite. It seems wild on the surface.
It does, but what's really fascinating, I think, is that these probably aren't signs of a breakdown. Not really. Instead, they look like a very deliberate, strategic decoupling.
Decouple it.
Yeah, and the whole AI ecosystem moving quickly towards a multi-cloud, multi-model future. It feels like a calculated evolution, not just chaos.
Absolutely. And we're going to explore the three main forces driving this. First, OpenAI's just incredible, almost insatiable need for compute power.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Microsoft's, let's call it an urgent need,
Mm-hmm.
to de-risk its AI future. They couldn't put all their eggs in one basket.
Makes sense.
And third, just how fast the whole competitive landscape itself is maturing. This isn't just, big tech headlines for the sake of it. This is about the actual plumbing, the infrastructure, and the models that are going to power your future.
Right. It affects everyone eventually.
So let's pull back the curtain on Act 1. OpenAI's huge move, the one that basically redefined its path forward, starting with a number that'll just make your head spin.
Yeah, that Oracle deal.
We're talking about a commitment to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI.
Huh.
And it's just colossal, a massive $300 billion over 5 years, starting in 2027.
$300 billion.
That works out to, what, $60 billion a year? Just think about that. OpenAI's current annual recurring revenue is around $10 billion.
So 6 times their current revenue annually. Wow.
And they're reportedly not even expecting to turn a profit until 2029. This feels like a real all-or-nothing kind of bet. What's your read on that level of risk?
It is an unprecedented gamble, absolutely. But like we said, it's also deeply strategic. This isn't just, oh, let's switch vendors. No, it's a core piece of something called Project Stargate.
Project Stargate. Okay, tell us about that.
Right. So this is an initiative involving OpenAI, Oracle, and also SoftBank. And the goal is to invest maybe $500 billion over 4 years
$500 billion.
to build a whole new generation of AI-specific data centers right here in the U.S.
Just take a moment to picture the scale of that. $500 billion for data centers.
It's immense. And the compute power they're shooting for is 4.5 gigawatts. That's like 2 Hoover dams.
Or the power for 4 million homes.
Exactly. They are literally securing the raw materials for AI on what you can only really describe as a near geopolitical scale. It tells you everything about their ambition to control the industrial base for AGI, independent of any single partner.
Okay, but given those deep ties to Microsoft, the billions Microsoft invested, the assumed exclusivity, why Oracle? Why not just expand the Azure deal? What drove them outside that existing partnership?
Well, the main driver is just a hard reality. There's a massive global shortage of the really specialized computing power you need for these next-gen AI models.
Right, the really high-end GPUs and networking.
Precisely. OpenAI's ambition, their drive towards AGI, means their need for compute simply outgrew what any single provider, even a giant like Microsoft Azure, could realistically commit to them exclusively.
It's just sheer capacity was number one.
Number one. But beyond that, OCI actually had some distinct technical advantages for what OpenAI needed.
You mentioned OCI being a Gen 2 cloud. What does that mean? How is it fundamentally different from, say, AWS or Azure, especially for these deterministic workloads you hear about with AI?
Okay, so traditional clouds, Gen 1, you could call them, were built for flexibility, right? Running lots of different apps on shared hardware, performance could be variable, like a public bus, maybe lots of stops, unpredictable traffic.
Okay.
Oracle's Gen 2, drawing on their database background, was built from the ground up for speed, predictability, and dedicated power. Deterministic just means you get exactly the compute power you expect, consistently. No surprises, no slowdowns because of neighbors.
Okay.
And that's absolutely critical for these massive AI training runs that might go for weeks, even months. You can't have interruptions.
So their database history actually gave them a leg up for AI. How does that work in practice? What's the tangible difference for OpenAI training these huge models?
Yeah, it did. OCI's architecture uses this high-speed network fabric with something called RDMA, remote direct memory access.
RD
Think of it like giving every single GPU its own dedicated super-fast highway to talk directly to every other GPU. No traffic lights, no bottlenecks. Essential for the kind of parallel processing involved.
Got it.
And they also offer robust bare metal servers.
Bare metal. For those not familiar, what does that mean practically?
It means OpenAI gets the whole physical server to itself, not just a virtual slice sharing resources with others. It gets rid of the noisy neighbor problem.
Right, where someone else on the same physical machine impacts your performance.
Exactly. Imagine trying to work in a shared office versus having your own private soundproof room. Bare metal gives you that guaranteed resource, predictable performance, super important for these long, complex jobs.
Makes sense.
And crucially, Oracle made some really aggressive early investments in NVIDIA GPUs. So when the generative AI boom really hit, they just had more capacity available than others.
They were ready.
They were ready. And finally, for OpenAI, just relying only on Microsoft started to look like a long-term vulnerability, especially as Microsoft is building its own powerful AI models now. They're competitors, too.
So it's also strategic diversification. Declaring independence, in a way?
Absolutely. Operational independence.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge turnaround for Oracle. I definitely remember the skepticism around their cloud strategy just a few years ago. What has this deal actually done for their position in the market?
Oh, it's been transformational. No other word for it. Their stock surged, 42% in a single day at one point? Added over $100 billion to Larry Ellison's net worth, briefly made him the richest person on the planet.
Incredible.
He completely validates that high-spending cloud strategy they pursued. And now, this deal is the cornerstone of this just massive $455 billion backlog of contracted revenue they're reporting.
$455 billion.
Yeah, that's apparently more than 4 times their backlog from the previous year, and maybe 4 times Google's cloud backlog. Oracle is suddenly a really formidable competitor, specifically in this specialized AI infrastructure market. They're right up there with AWS and Azure now in this niche.
So it's not just Oracle catching up. They're actually leading a new type of cloud market.
That's a great way to put it. This deal really highlights a split, a bifurcation in the cloud market. You've got the traditional general-purpose cloud services we all know. And now there's this distinct new market for hyperscale, specialized AI training infrastructure. And Oracle has absolutely positioned itself as the leader there, defined by these huge multi-year deals for dedicated, super high-performance capacity.
So for businesses listening, the options for buying compute are changing depending on what you're building.
Dramatically different. Building a standard web app versus training a foundational AI model requires totally different kinds of infrastructure deals now.
Okay, it's easy to get caught up in just the sheer scale of OpenAI and Oracle here. But while that was unfolding, Microsoft was making its own equally significant pivot.
Right, the Anthropic move.
Exactly. Not about compute power this time, but about bringing Anthropic's Claude AI into the Microsoft 365 suite. And you're saying this wasn't like retaliation for the Oracle deal?
No, I think it was more proactive, an evolution of Microsoft's core goal to be the world's dominant AI platform.
Okay, so what was the trigger then? Why Anthropic? Why now?
The big catalyst seems to have been that OpenAI leadership crisis back in November 2023. Remember when Sam Altman was suddenly fired by the board?
Oh yeah, that was chaotic. Microsoft seemed completely blindsided.
They were. It was a huge shock.
Yeah.
And it starkly revealed the risk, right? Building a multi-trillion-dollar AI future on one partner whose governance seemed, well, unpredictable. Satya Nadella basically started looking for an insurance policy almost immediately after that.
An insurance policy, and that had a couple parts to it.
It looks like it. First clear sign was in March 2024 when they effectively acquired most of the Inflection AI team for around $650 million. That signaled a serious push into building their own competing first-party models in-house.
Okay, bringing talent in-house.
And then the partnership with Anthropic, who is OpenAI's main rival, that looks like the second and maybe even more significant part of this de-risking strategy.
Right, which makes you wonder, Microsoft gets OpenAI's models basically at cost, just paying for the compute on Azure. Why would they then pay actual cash to Anthropic, hosted mainly on AWS, their biggest cloud competitor, for another model? Seems counterintuitive.
Unless the other model just performed better for what they needed.
Performance over partnership.
It seems exactly that. Pragmatism. Microsoft's decision was apparently driven by a pretty simple reality. Claude was just better at certain high-value tasks within the enterprise context. Internal teams working on Microsoft 365 Copilot features reportedly found that Anthropic's Claude 4 Sonnet model actually outperformed OpenAI's best, even including glimpses of the next-gen GPT-5 in specific areas crucial for Office users.
Yeah, that's quite a finding. Do we know why? Like, what was Claude doing better specifically for, say, PowerPoint or Excel?
Yeah, a couple of key things stood out in reports. Claude was apparently generating more aesthetically pleasing and better structured PowerPoint decks from prompts.
Okay, presentation quality.
And it also proved more effective, more reliable, in automating complex financial functions and doing data analysis inside Excel.
Interesting. So Microsoft basically decided the end-user product quality was more important than sticking exclusively with their primary investment.
It certainly looks that way. They prioritized the best component for the job, even if it meant paying cash to a competitor's partner. It's a very pragmatic choice.
This feels like, classic Microsoft strategy. Own the platform, own the ecosystem, and be somewhat agnostic about the apps or services running underneath. Is that the play here?
Absolutely. Textbook Microsoft, you could argue. This model-agnostic platform strategy is popping up everywhere in their portfolio now. Look at GitHub Copilot. It already lets developers choose between models from OpenAI, Anthropic, even xAI.
Right. They offer choice there.
And Azure AI Foundry is being built up as this big hub where you can access models from all sorts of providers. Plus, and this is important, they are investing heavily in their own proprietary models. Things like MAI-1 Preview for text, MAI Voice 1 for voice, and Magma, which is a big multimodal model.
So it's really not about finding the one single best AI model anymore.
Seems not. It's shifting towards having the best tool for the specific job.
And Microsoft's edge is they owned the desktop, the OS, the productivity suite, the distribution channel.
Exactly. Their unparalleled distribution through Office 365, Windows, GitHub reaches billions of users. They don't necessarily need to own the best model for every single task, as long as they are the main way most people access and use AI, regardless of where that AI originated.
Okay, so let's tie these threads together. We've got OpenAI making this huge infrastructure bet with Oracle. We've got Microsoft bringing Anthropic's Claude into Office.
Yeah.
You said these are parallel moves, symptoms of one bigger trend.
I think so. The strategic decoupling of Microsoft and OpenAI. Their goals, their appetite for risk, their operational needs, they've just fundamentally diverged.
Right. Two sides of the same coin, essentially.
Pretty much. OpenAI's driving need is to secure almost infinite specialized compute power. They need operational freedom to chase AGI without being tied to one partner's limitations or priorities.
While Microsoft's driving need is to reduce dependency, ensure their platform is stable, and deliver the best possible product experience, even if that means incorporating tech from OpenAI's rivals.
Exactly. Different imperatives now.
And there was a key change in their contract that actually allowed this divergence to happen legally, right?
Yes, that was critical. The original deals pretty much named Microsoft Azure as OpenAI's exclusive cloud provider. But around January 2025, that wording reportedly changed.
How so?
It shifted from full exclusivity to a right of first refusal on new compute capacity needs.
Ah, so if Microsoft couldn't or wouldn't provide the scale OpenAI needed, OpenAI could then go elsewhere.
Precisely. They could legally seek capacity from Oracle or Google Cloud or whoever if Microsoft passed on that first refusal. That change basically unlocked the door for both companies to diversify.
Man, this best partnership in tech, as they used to call it, has certainly seen some evolution from that initial $13 billion investment through 2023.
To now, yeah. That November 2023 leadership crisis at OpenAI really seems like the definitive turning point. It clearly shook Microsoft's confidence. Nadella started looking for that insurance policy almost immediately.
And then things seemed to move fast.
They did. In the months after you saw Microsoft hire the Inflection AI team, you saw OpenAI start talking publicly about needing a multi-cloud strategy. Reports even suggested the personal relationship between the CEOs, Nadella and Altman, cooled off quite a bit.
From constant texting to scheduled weekly calls, I read.
Yeah, signs of a more formal, maybe less integrated relationship.
Which all led up to this new agreement, a non-binding Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, announced in September 2025. You called it a peace treaty for this new reality. What does it actually do for them?
Well, for OpenAI, it seems to give them a clear runway to restructure into a public benefit corporation, a PBC.
Why is that important for them?
Because they need to raise absolutely enormous amounts of public capital to fund those huge infrastructure deals, like the Oracle one. A PBC structure, potentially leading to an IPO, makes that feasible.
Okay, so it facilitates their capital needs. What about for Microsoft? What do they get out of this MOU?
Something crucial, actually. It apparently resolves the existential risk posed by the original partnership's AGI clause.
The AGI clause. That sounds ominous. What was the danger there for Microsoft?
That clause basically gave OpenAI the right to potentially cut Microsoft off from accessing its technology if and when OpenAI declared it had achieved artificial general intelligence AGI.
Wow. So Microsoft's entire multi-trillion-dollar AI strategy could have been switched off.
Potentially, yes. It was described as a contractual time bomb. The new MOU reportedly ensures Microsoft gets continued access to OpenAI's tech, even post-AGI. It diffuses that bomb.
That's huge for Microsoft. Stability.
Absolutely. And this whole process really, it marks the end of OpenAI primarily being an AI research lab. It's the start of its life as an AI industrial giant needing giant capital and a whole new corporate setup.
A massive transformation. Okay, so with all these moves, Oracle, Anthropic, the new MOU, what does the competitive landscape look like now? How are these key players lining up in this new AI ecosystem?
I think these moves really clarify things. We're seeing a clearer sort of three-layered structure emerging for the AI market.
3 layers. Okay, what are they?
First, you got the infrastructure layer. This is the super capital-intensive fight for the raw materials. GPUs, networking power, data centers. Oracle, as we've discussed, made a huge play to dominate the high-performance end of this layer.
Okay, layer 1, infrastructure. Got it.
Layer 2 is the foundational model layer. This is the intense, research-driven race to build the most capable general-purpose AI models. That's where you see OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta all battling it out.
Right, the core AI brains. And layer 3.
Layer 3 is the application and platform layer. This is the fight to own the user interface, the distribution channels, basically, where and how most people and businesses actually use AI and where it gets monetized. And Microsoft is clearly aiming to be the dominant orchestrator here, leveraging its massive existing ecosystem.
So if we were to quickly map the big players onto these layers, Microsoft is the platform orchestrator.
Yeah. Owning the ecosystem, the distribution. Their challenge is managing all that complexity, maybe some channel conflict down the line.
OpenAI remains the AGI pursuer.
Focused on leading in foundational models, their big risk, that massive financial burn rate, and just intense competition.
Oracle steps up as the AI infrastructure backbone.
Leveraging that specialized OCI. But they face high concentration risk, being so reliant on a few huge customers like OpenAI, and they've taken on significant debt.
And Anthropic carves out a niche as the enterprise specialist.
Focusing on safety, reliability, specific business tasks. Their challenge is scaling up their own infrastructure and research fast enough to truly compete with the giants.
So it's not just straight competition. It's this complex web of co-opetition, right? Hedging bets, racing for model leadership, and platform control at the same time.
Exactly. The era of simple, exclusive AI partnerships, that feels well and truly over.
Replaced by this much more dynamic, maybe more mature ecosystem. Critiquing decoupling, specialization, companies being partners one minute, competitors the next.
It's definitely not a simple landscape to navigate anymore.
And for you, listening to this, trying to make sense of it all, maybe the biggest takeaway is that the old idea of one model to rule them all is probably dead.
Seems that way.
The winning strategies for businesses, for developers, will likely need to be multi-provider, multi-model, picking the best tool for each specific job, which is exactly what Microsoft itself is now doing.
Right. Understanding these layers, these shifting alliances, it's becoming crucial for anyone involved in AI.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. As these fundamental resources for AI compute, power get locked down on what we called a near geopolitical scale. And as the world's most powerful AIs get delivered through this incredibly complex web of frenemies, what does it actually mean for the future? For innovation? For accessibility? What the ultimate societal impact going to be?
Big questions.
And maybe more personally, how will you get ready to interact with, to work within a world where the very foundation of intelligence is built on these really intricate, intertwined rivalries? Something to think about. That's all for this deep dive.